This show is sponsored by Mighty Capital, the go-to venture capital firm for product-first companies like Airbnb and Amplitude. Learn why they are dubbed the best value for the dollar invested at mighty.capital. I'm SC Moadi, founder and chair of Products That Count, a 501c3 nonprofit engaging over 500,000 product managers. Our mission is simple: help you build great products through groundbreaking research, prestigious awards, and top-notch programming like this award-winning Top 1% podcast. Whether you're aiming to boost your career or turn your product team into a competitive advantage, this is your gateway. Visit productsthatcount.org and begin your product leadership journey. This particular series is hosted by one of the first chief product officers in the world, Renee Niemi, and each episode is a masterclass in product leadership. Renee, over to you.
Hello, today I have with me Irana Wasti. She is the Chief Product Officer of Bill. First of all, Irana, I just want to say congratulations for being one of the top CPOs in the world. How does it feel?
Thank you for having me. And it feels really exciting and very humbling.
Yeah, well, it's well deserved, and I've really been looking forward to our conversation. But before we dive in 60 seconds or less, I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, Bill, and our products and services, and specifically your role there.
Absolutely. Well, as Chief Product Officer at Bill, I have the honor of leading the teams that drive truly the product strategy, the product and customer experiences for our customers across product, design, research, content, and other functions. And Bill, the company that I'm part of, is a leading integrated financial operations platform provider for SMBs that helps those small businesses truly manage and optimize their cash flow needs. So it's been an exciting journey to be part of. I've been with Bill now for 2 years and a really fantastic group of people to lead.
Yeah, I have to be honest. I'm a customer.
Yay, great to
So
hear.
you guys do an amazing, efficient job. Makes independent contractors look very professional, and then I occasionally even get paid on time. So it's awesome. Well, great. Thank you for sharing that. I would love to actually get to know you and what's on the top of your mind. Obviously, this last, I'm going to say 3 or 4 years have been a heck of a journey. We started with the pandemic, then we moved right into financial instability, and now we're in the middle of this, what I like to call the AI revolution, but call it as you will, all of the changes and opportunities associated with, Chat GPT and AI. I guess what I would love to know, broadly speaking, definitely don't divulge any details or anything that you wouldn't want the public to know, but how are you thinking about your time strategically? I mean, the time is, a very precious commodity. With all of this going on, how are you going to be spending your time this year?
For me, it's really important to focus my time and lead the team through kind of this customer centric and category leading innovation and a building exercise across all of our products. And what I mean by that is, just like you said, there's been so many transitions over the last couple of years from how businesses and especially SMBs were run before the pandemic, the impact that the pandemic had on SMBs around the world, the impact that we're all feeling post the pandemic, and all of that came along with some pretty important shifts and trends in the way that SMBs utilize technology and what they expect from a technology provider. And so, while before pandemic, not all SMBs were even online. In fact, half of them weren't even online yet, if you can imagine.
It's hard to
Pandemic
imagine.
accelerated, yeah, pandemic accelerated that digital revolution at the time, if we can call it that. And what happened is, coming out of pandemic, SMBs now on average have at least 7 software solutions. So we went from a low tech touch points to an acceleration of adoption of technology solutions to now we're in this phase of, well, what do I do with all these solutions are adopted? Do they all work for me? Is it worth spending my precious earned dollars against those solutions? Those are all the questions SMBs are asking themselves, and they're asking us, right? Like, how do we provide integrated experience, integrated view of their business? And since we provide financial operations solutions, the number one question we get asked is like, how do I get a 360 view of my cash flow? That is what's top of mind for SMBs. And so that's kind of what I mean by customer centricity and category leading innovation of how do we think and stay ahead of the industry trends, the needs of the small businesses.
Yeah, well, I would think that first and foremost, that in the SMB world, um, this has been a constant, at least since the pandemic, right? Where they're evaluating these tools. Is there anything different about this year given AI, or is it just business as usual?
Well, so I wouldn't say it's business as usual because SMBs, just like all of us, hear about AI. SMBs, just like us, have their jobs, their businesses, and their consumers, and they get to experience all kinds of software experiences that come their way. And AI is definitely bubbling up as one of the top things that SMBs want to adopt, better understand, and really understand how it helps their business. So for us, part of this evolution and technology evolution is how do we bring AI into the both into the conversation, but really into the experiences? Because at the end of the day, when SMBs say they want more AI, what they really want is more automation, more efficiency, more assurance that they're doing the right thing. And that's where we come in, is that we've already been building and we continue to build that functionality into the product experiences. So, what looks like a seamless or an automated or a smart experience to an SMB is actually powered by some really meaningful technology.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, at the end of the day, you know, customers, you got to solve the customer problem regardless of if it's a pandemic, if it's a recession,
Right.
or if it's an AI revolution, right? It all just comes down to the customer. I would love your perspective kind of on this same thing on how you spend your time, kind of on that
Mhm.
same trend. Obviously you own, it sounds like you own the voice of the customer, or you have taken ownership of the voice of the customer, at least in terms of needs. What about internally? I talk to a lot of chief product officers, as you know, and there's a lot of moving parts right now. What role are you playing internally within Build to help kind of sort out priorities, where to make investments, how to make investments? How much of your time is spent on that this year?
Yeah. So one thing you mentioned about sort of me representing the voice of the customer. What's great about a company like Bill is we actually have voice of a customer represented across the company because we've got sales teams, go to market teams, product and development teams, support teams. We have so many touch points with the customer that it actually gives everybody some kind of a way to represent the customer and then bring that voice of a customer back. And of course, for us as a product team, right, it's our job to figure out how to synthesize all of the voices into our priorities. And then to your question about what role sort of do we play and the product team plays in setting the company priorities, is that, well, we've set the product strategy for the company, right? And product strategy is really core to overall corporate strategy of the company. When we think about fiscal year planning, prioritization planning, resources planning, we often start with what are the product investments and priorities? Where are we investing? How we're advancing the product? What are the new incremental opportunities we're building that we can take to market? And either it's new experiences, new monetization opportunities. That's often where the conversation starts. And that's often where all of the sort of incremental discussions begin. Because then, if you're building a new product, then you do need a full cross functional engagement to make sure that that product sees the light of day and gets traction and whatnot. So, oftentimes, kind of product I feel like sits both at the core and at the intersection of all the functions. And that's often where the planning begins.
Yeah, yeah. So So it's really interesting because sometimes I see planning start in the office of the CFO. And then I just love it when I see product starting at the office of product, because it's really about what problems are we going to go solve. And if you do a really good job of that, then the financial, then you figure out your financial plan, the revenue implications, the investment implications, so forth and so on. So
Mhm.
I love that. And I'm sure there's a tight partnership.
Oh yeah, well again, there's a tight partnership with every function
Yeah.
because you want your sales team fully engaged and excited about what you're about to launch or about to build. You need the marketing teams to support you. You absolutely need that partnership with finance team because you want to make sure you both have the investment and the return on that investment that you agree on. Because not everything we do in product is going to have an immediate return on investment. And in
Yeah.
fact, you want to spread the product investments across short, medium, long term horizons. And so that conversation is a very important one as well. So it's a really tight partnership across every function.
Yeah, and I love the point you're making about time to return. I think that's a
Mhm.
really key point. The time to return will vary,
Mhm.
and the risk to return,
And
right?
yeah, yeah.
Managing the risk. Not you don't always get everything right.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. And I think you have to account for that too, right? That um, there's risk and uncertainty. And in fact, you want that risk and uncertainty there because that means you are placing enough bets or thinking critically enough or truly incrementally enough. And I don't mean small increments, I mean bigger increments enough where by definition, not every seed you're going to plant is going to succeed, but you kind of want that outcome because that means you are planting enough interesting seeds.
Yeah, I love that. I'd love to learn a little bit more about you, your journey, your story. Obviously, as we go through all of our respective journeys, there's always so many points of influence. Was there any one in particular, either directly or indirectly, that had an unproportional influence on how you think about work, and how you define your own leadership persona?
Yeah, it is hard to name one person, but if I had to name one person, I would say it would be my mom. So my background is such that my family immigrated from Uzbekistan, which was used to be a former republic of Soviet Union, to U.S. when I was 14, and my mom was in her mid 30s. We immigrated as a family, and I watched my mom. Adapt and evolve and change both her job, her language that she uses every day, her habits, just everything in support of this new being in the new environment and in support of setting the best foundation for her two daughters to grow up and adjust to life in US. It was a huge change, huge transformation for our family, but just watching her adapt to it and evolve with it and be really successful at it has been really inspiring. And it's something that I've taken forward with me in how I approach things and how I approach life. I kind of there's things I wanted to accomplish or still want to accomplish, and I usually approach it from a perspective of like, we'll figure it out. We'll figure out how to get it done. So example of that is by the time my husband and I went to business school, we already been married for a couple of years, and I really wanted to start having a family. And so we had our first kid, our first semester at Harvard Business School. And we had no idea how we're going to do it and how we're going to manage it. We had some, backup plans of maybe withdrawing for a year, but we went forward with it and we figured it out. And kudos to the business school who helped us along the way as well. And we did it. And then when a couple of years later an opportunity came along to take our entire family of four and move to another country and continent, when we moved to London, it sounded scary, but then it makes you think again. It's like, well, my parents did it, they figured it out, and at least I'm moving to a country because of my job, and they speak mostly the same language. And so you take that and you figure out how to adapt, and you teach your kids that. And so that ability to sort of really adapt to your environment regardless of what comes your way is something I take from my mom, and I try to pass it on to my kids as well.
I love that. And one of the things that's very unique about the role of product management, frankly, is that it's a function that is constantly evolving and changing. Best practice literally changes.
Hmm.
I would say year to year, but I think it may even change more often than that. So
Hmm.
it sounds like your mom is really giving you that adaptability, growth mindset needed to be able to handle the change.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And you're right. And this is part of why I like the job of a product leader is because it is constantly evolving. The needs are and of your customers are evolving. The macroeconomic conditions that your business and your customers' businesses operate in constantly evolves.
Right.
You add in sort of any international flavors and challenging, and then that brings in the new discipline. So I do love this job for that reason. And again, I draw a lot on my mom for inspiration.
So with your mom as your inspiration, then how do you take that into the workplace and use that power as a leader?
So for me, I think one of the attitudes that I take forward with me and approaches is that like everything can be solved. There's a solution for everything. Like every challenge has a solution. Sometimes they're more creative than others. Sometimes it's not a straightforward solution, but every challenge has a solution. And that's true for business challenges, resourcing challenges, or people challenges, right? We lead the team of people, we work at a company, we manage our and support our customers um, who are in their own ways consumers and business owners. And so everybody faces challenges. If this would have been straightforward, it wouldn't be as fun. And so I sort of my approach is that like every challenge can be solved. There's a way to do it, and so let's look for the most creative solution to get it done.
Yeah, I love that. So while you were kind of on this journey, your career journey, like where did you start your career? Like what function? And how did you know
Mhm.
that you had picked the right career path?
So I actually started my career I graduated as a computer scientist. So I actually started my career in engineering, but I knew I wanted to go to business school. So after business school, I did start my career in product management. And one of the early experiences that for me solidified that um, I want to be in the product management discipline. It was this concept that the company I worked at was very passionate about is this idea of visiting the customers, following the customers into the customer environment and really spending time with the customer immersed in their environment to truly understand their needs, because at that point it's not just about the needs of how that customer uses your software solution, it's about truly understanding the environment of the customer. And the first time I got to visit small businesses, this was in the Bay Area, and talk to those small businesses about how did they start the business? Why are they so passionate about their business? How hard it is to run a small business? How much help they need? And then you realize how much your technology solution can empower them. That to me was really powerful. And in that case, I've done these customer visits at every job I've been at. I've done them in Bay Area. I've done them in different states. I've done them internationally from UK to India to Germany. And I can to this day remember every single customer visit because it's so unique. It's so memorable. It's so heartwarming and at times heartbreaking because sometimes you visit businesses that are having trouble surviving and they truly need that help. It's just been incredible, and it's something that gives you as a leader, as a product leader, a reason to work that much harder because you know you're making a difference. And oftentimes, we do a lot of quantitative studies, and you want things to be, you always want to have enough data. And of course, you can't visit enough customers to make it quantitative. But that qualitative, that touch point, that being immersed in their environment is probably the most memorable thing. And for me, having done that in my first job as a product leader was something that solidified for me like this is the this is the job for me.
Yeah, it's just as you were telling this story, it actually brings back my own memories, very, very similar. in very transitionary times where, Silicon Valley's got these cycles of technology. The particular technology cycle that we were going through at the time was pen computing. And it was a very similar story where, they said, we got to figure out what to do with this pen thing. And so they go talk to a bunch of customers, and then you come back and you realize the power and the impact of being able to take all of those observations and do something with them.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so much different than being in sales or even being in engineering. I mean, I still think, by the way, the power of observation in those roles are priceless. But it's different because as a product leader, you actually control the priorities. You can
Mm-hmm.
actually make it happen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And you truly see the impact your customers have on their employees, their communities. They're solving critical needs, oftentimes critical needs for their customers, and they don't have anyone else to rely on. Just recently we visited a customer locally, and the person who was using our product, build product, she was describing her job, and she said, "My number one job is being EA to the CEO." Great. But I'm also head of accounting, head of HR, and office manager. and and it's just incredible to hear that, because just thinking how much context switching, how much subject matter expertise she either has or is trying to pick up on the go, how much she relies on the tools that we provide her and others provide her. It's just incredible. It's just incredible to see. And we, as I visited that customer and my team visited that customer, we took away with us all these learnings of how do you break down these complex jobs to be done in financial operations for someone who has to do four jobs in their day-to-day operations. So it's
Yeah,
very powerful.
very powerful. And I love the inspiration and your why, so to speak. Product management is known for having to interface with many, many different functions in behind the scenes in the companies we work for. There really isn't a function that our role doesn't touch,
Mhm.
that isn't a strategic partner at some level. And I love your perspective on this, by the way, because it's clear to me that you have a partnering mindset when it comes to this. That being said, sometimes stakeholders are tough. Who's your most challenging stakeholder, and tell me about them and how you navigate them?
So I would say my most challenging stakeholder is the customer, and here's why.
Mm.
We serve SMBs. There are millions, and in fact 30 million SMBs in US alone, and our job is to serve them at scale in the way that works for them and their needs, while they represent all sizes, all verticals, all kinds of subject matter expertise. And so, part of what's so exciting about serving SMBs is that, on one hand, I can go and visit a small business owner. They're everywhere, they're all around us, and learn about their business. But part of it is I have to solve for their need at scale. And I have to solve for that need at scale in a way that both works for them, works for their budget, which often is very small. So that return on investment proving to them that your software is worth purchasing and buying, their time to learn a new tool or become anywhere close to subject matter expert in any particular area. You kind of have to combine all of these restrictions and build something that scales to at least 30 million in US, but obviously much bigger worldwide. And so when I think about all the stakeholders we as product leaders have to manage, and of course every, like you said, every function internally is a stakeholder. um, for us, especially in the SMB space, serving SMBs is probably the most challenging stakeholder we have to serve.
Yeah, it's as you were saying this, various slices in my career, SMB has been in the crosshairs of my target, and it's strange because it's a business need, and yet as a market, it often acts a lot like a consumer,
Hmm.
in terms of getting to, actually reaching them, getting your message to them, and all that
Hmm.
kind of stuff. So,
Exactly. They need powerful enterprise like tools, but they can't look like an enterprise tool. They have to look closer to a consumer tool and in terms of ease of use, ease of onboarding, ease of understanding, but they have to be powerful, right? These are important businesses, and they serve many different, again, they serve many different stakeholders. They have customers, employees that rely on them. So you kind of have to build really robust tools, but make sure they show up in a way that's easy to use and understand.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. Um, when you think about your team, and you think about your own journey to this role, obviously, we had the earlier conversation about product management, not, you know, not up until recently, you couldn't even go to school for product management. Now, I don't know if you were able to did you get a degree in product management, or did you just transition to, yeah,
No, I went to business school, and it's a general management degree. And
yeah,
to your point of evolution, at the time, going into product management was still kind of the newish thing, versus now, obviously, it's a very popular discipline. But at the time, it was still a newer role.
that being said, to my knowledge, you can get an emphasis on product management, but you still can't get a degree in product management. I suspect that'll change over time. But my macro point is less about school and more about, we have to learn on the job.
Hmm.
And as a result, leaders like yourself, you develop a set of best practices that you've learned really, really works, and it's repeatable, and it brings the best out of you and your team. What's one of the best practices that you tend to lean on, and it brings the best out of you?
Outside of customer centricity, I say one of the best practices that I lean on is experimentation. And the reason I lean on that is because it gives a team, and myself, a way to frame up a customer need, a hypothesis. How are we going to test that hypothesis? How are we going to measure the success, or what success looks like, and then make a decision based on that. And when you break down all of these ideas and problems into testable hypotheses, you remove a lot of the fear, the uncertainty, the risk factor that often comes with making a big and important decision. Everything can be a testable hypothesis. Everything in the entire end-to-end customer experience, everything can be broken down into a testable hypothesis. And you can test it many different ways. You can do it in very scrappy way. From low fidelity to high fidelity ways, doesn't matter. But if you break it down into those testable chunks, you as a team feel so much more confident trying different things, because you know that if it doesn't work, it was just an experiment and we're going to move on. And if it works, we're going to amplify it. And it really reduces that burden of like, is this a one-way door? If I build this out, do I have to prove the return of this because I've spent the time building it? Like, my big sort of encouragement to the teams is break things down into testable hypotheses, and then you can test as many things as you possibly can with the resources you have, and then scale the winners. But I also do hope not every test wins. And if every test wins, then we're not testing enough. And so again, it's
Right.
finding
If
that right
every test
balance.
wins, are we challenging the status quo enough, right?
Exactly.
So is there a scenario in which you would not run a test with that as in the background?
There are some things where you truly do have confidence in what needs to be built, and you do believe that this needs to be built out. And sometimes things need to be built out, and then the final milestones is where you iterate. So yeah, if you have the confidence to build what you think needs to be built, go for it. But oftentimes, you do want to better understand and prove to yourself where the opportunities are at. Another, again, once you prove an opportunity, or once you prove an idea, then you build for scale, right? Then you can go ahead and scale, and that can be a more linear build. So yeah, you're right, not everything has to be experimented upon, but it is one of the best practices to remove that kind of fear and uncertainty.
Yeah, I love that. Are there any tools that you find particularly helpful in that experiment process?
So the tools again range in terms of you can do things as low fidelity as put up websites that lead to nowhere, that a customer clicks on a choice and then you say, thank you so much for your feedback. We will get back to you when this is available. You can experiment literally in person with a handful of customers. And then there, of course, there are tools like online tools like usertesting.com and others where you can do it in a more formulaic way as well. But again, the testing, you really can't, the testing can really vary in terms of how precise you want to be and how early you are in your thinking. You just have to find the right tool that works for you.
Yeah, I love that. All right. Well, our time has gone so fast. I can't believe we are down to our last question. And of course, we cannot walk away without having at least one question on the big word of the day, which is AI. What I would really love to know, and I'm asking every chief product officer this year this question, is when you think of the role of product management, how will AI impact our role in both the short term and the long term?
hmm It's a great question. Very 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 relevant to the current times. I think about AI and the impact AI would have on these jobs in two ways. On one hand, of course, AI will have an impact to our day-to-day sort of operations, right? Of being a product manager and the access to information we have, how easy we can get a synthesis of inputs or information available at our fingertips, how much easier we can get insights from the data we collect on our customer and customer product usage and so on. Like it truly does give us more sort of power to act quicker and provide us with more information. I think that's interesting and exciting. But I think there's a second aspect to AI and how it evolves the product roles that I think is even more interesting potentially. It's that how do you bring AI into the hands of your customers in a way that how do you think about it in a way that's most useful for your customer? Because what's happening today is we all talk about AI, we all play around with Gen AI and chatbots, whether we are consumers, whether our kids get to play around with it from school or at work, right? Our customers hear about it, and for us, for example, SMBs absolutely say they want AI in their tech stack, but it's up to us to figure out how, right? Because AI, for the sake of AI, doesn't deliver value to the customer, right? You have to figure out how do you take this complex technology, this innovation that's happening quickly and continues to happen, and marry it with the problems you're solving for the customer, the jobs to be done of the customer you're trying to solve for, and how do you put it together in a way that the customer doesn't need to learn what AI is. They don't have to be scared by it. They don't have to now suddenly figure out how it works in the background, but they have to benefit from it. And so I think to me, that just presents a really unique challenge of taking this complex technology that's constantly evolving and turning it into a value additive experience for your customers. It just creates a different type of thinking and forces us as product leaders to think about it that way.
Yeah, I love what I love about that answer is that the core principles of product management still apply, right? And AI or Chat GPT or pick your flavor is just a way of solving the problem. How do you think of AI, or do you think of AI in terms of internal tool use
Mhm.
and maybe expediting or um, uh, you know, uh, taking tasks that may have taken time but not added a lot of value and shortening that amount of time?
Oh, absolutely. And we already use them across the company, and it goes beyond just the product function. For example, all of our knowledge base within Bill, we use an AI provider that helps us synthesize and search through it. And it's actually it's incredibly powerful because you can find any presentation, any document, any slide you've been looking for instantly, and it's just amazing how well it works. Another application is providing access to data to our support agents, right? So instead of searching through kind of, again, all of the different tools and knowledge bases that you had of the past, you put a layer of AI search on top that then provides the answer that that customer support agent needs in response to the customer, and it helps the customer support agent look a lot more sort of informed and real time informed. And so absolutely we see improvements in productivity and opportunities for that across the various functions. And again, we appreciate the ability to bring that technology to us internally, but then again, you start to think of, how do you get this in the hands of the customer? How do you give customers the confidence that the tool you're giving them, or that next chat bot or experience you're giving them, or predictable experience you're giving them, is both incremental and solves their need and is accurate? Because again, we manage customers cash flow, we manage customers money movement, that it's so critical to get it right and continue to build that trust with the customer.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I really like this idea of being able to get to knowledge quicker
Mm-hmm.
using AI. And I also love this idea of being able to use AI for tasks that don't add value, to free up time, um, so you can add value in
Mm-hmm.
whatever that might be. So maybe it's free up more time so you can spend more time face to face with a customer,
Mm-hmm.
right? I love how you're framing it and you're
Yeah,
thinking.
absolutely agree.
Awesome. Well, listen, Irana, it's been so much fun. Really, really appreciate your time today. I want to just thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with us. And again, congratulations on being a finalist for our CPO award this year.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
This is SC Moadi again, founder and chair of Products That Count. Thank you for listening to this episode. If you like what you heard, be sure to leave us a review on your favorite platform, including Spotify and Apple. And please check out our other resources at productsthatcount.org. They're designed to accelerate your product career and make product the most important function in business. Until soon.